Catherine's wrists burned against the zip ties. 4 insurgents circled her in the supply bunker, their rifles trained on her chest. The tallest one, scarred face split by a yellow-toothed grin, spat at her feet. "She can't escape," he roared in broken English, and the others laughed. American woman, soft, weak. Catherine's eyes tracked the spacing between them. 3 feet, 4.5, 6. Her breathing stayed even. The scar-faced one leaned closer, his breath hot and rancid. "You die here, yes?" Catherine's lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. "No," she whispered. Then she moved. If you're watching this, hit that subscribe button right now. Stay with me until the very end of this story and drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. Now let's get back to it. 26 hours earlier, Catherine Hayes had stepped off the supply helicopter at Forward Operating Base Granite with nothing but a duffel bag and a carefully practiced smile. The rotors kicked up snow and grit as she ducked under the blades, her boots finding purchase on the icy landing pad. The mountains rose around her like jagged teeth, their peaks lost in the gray belly of storm clouds. "Mrs. Hayes!" A young private jogged toward her, his rifle bouncing against his chest. "Captain Hayes asked me to escort you to his quarters, ma'am." "I can find my way, Private." "With respect, ma'am," the captain insisted. The kid couldn't have been more than 22. His eyes kept darting to the perimeter, to the ridgeline, back to her face. "It's not safe to wander around alone right now." Catherine's training cataloged everything in that sentence. Not safe, right now, wandering alone. She adjusted the duffel on her shoulder. "Lead the way." They walked through the base in silence. Catherine counted 17 soldiers on visible duty. Too few. The wire fortifications looked solid enough, but the guard positions were undermanned. 2 soldiers stood at the eastern checkpoint when there should have been 4. The western approach had only 1. "How long have you been at Granite, Private?" 4 months, ma'am. Supposed to rotate out next week." "How's morale?" The kid's jaw tightened. "Fine, ma'am." "Lie." Catherine filed it away. They reached a prefab structure near the command center. The private knocked twice, then stepped back. "Captain Hayes, your wife is here, sir." The door swung open, and there he was. David Hayes, 6 feet of solid muscle and command presence, his face splitting into a genuine smile for the first time since she'd left him 3 months ago. He pulled her inside, arms wrapping around her before the door even closed. "Cat," his voice cracked on her name. "God, I missed you." She held him tight, breathing in the familiar scent of him under the layer of gun oil and cold. "Missed you too." When they finally pulled apart, his hands cupped her face. "You look good, tired but good." "You look like hell." David laughed, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Flattery will get you everywhere, Mrs. Hayes." He pulled her deeper into the small room. A cot, a desk covered in maps and reports, a single chair. "Welcome to paradise." Catherine dropped her duffel and turned to face him fully. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong. I'm just happy to see my wife." "David," she kept her voice level, "I counted the guard positions on my way in. You're running at 60% manning. The wire needs reinforcement on the north side. And that private who escorted me, he's scared." David's smile faded. He ran a hand through his hair, suddenly looking every one of his 38 years. "You've been here 5 minutes. Answer the question." He moved to the desk, braced his hands against it. "We've had some intelligence reports, enemy movement in the area. Nothing concrete, just chatter. Command thinks they're probing, looking for weak points. And you're undermanned because? Because we're not the priority." Frustration bled into his voice. "Bigger bases get the reinforcements. We get what's left over." He turned back to her. "But it's under control, Kat. I've got good men here. We've tightened protocols, increased patrols. We're ready if something happens." Catherine studied his face. She saw the lie and the tension around his eyes. the way his shoulders carried weight they shouldn't have to. Show me your defensive positions. Cat, show me. They spent the next 2 hours walking the perimeter. Catherine didn't comment, didn't criticize. She just observed. The soldiers they passed snapped to attention for David, but their eyes tracked her with curiosity and something else, wariness maybe, or resentment. The captain's wife, here to judge them. Lieutenant Marcus Chen intercepted them near the northern checkpoint. He was compact and efficient, his movements precise. Captain, Mrs. Hayes, he nodded to each of them. Sir, we've got the evening patrol ready to move out. Good. Make sure they check the approach from the ridge. I want eyes on that tree line. Already planned, sir. Chen's gaze flicked to Catherine, then back to David. Should I prepare a briefing for Mrs. Hayes? Given her background? Catherine felt David tense beside her. That won't be necessary, Lieutenant. With respect, sir, if she's going to be here during this, I said it won't be necessary. The silence stretched thin and dangerous. Chen's jaw worked, but he finally nodded. Yes, sir. He left without another word. Catherine waited until they were alone. You told them. I told Chen, he's my XO. He needed to know why I was bringing a civilian into a potentially hostile situation. David's voice dropped. He won't say anything, but he wants to use me. He wants to use every asset we have. That's his job. David stopped walking, turned to face her. But you're not here as an asset, Kat. You're here as my wife, that's all. Even if I could help, especially then, his eyes searched hers. You left that life. You walked away. I'm not going to be the one who pulls you back into it. Catherine looked past him to the ridgeline, to the gathering darkness. What if I want to help? Then I'll tell you the same thing I've been telling myself for the last 3 months. That life is over. We're building something new, something normal. He reached for her hand. Isn't that what you wanted? She squeezed his fingers. Yes. But normal doesn't exist out here, she thought. Not in places like this. They ate dinner in the mess hall with the other officers. The food was standard military fare. Overcooked meat, under-seasoned vegetables, coffee that could strip paint. Catherine sat between David and Major Sarah Vance, the base's logistics officer. Vance was 40-something, steel gray hair pulled back in a regulation bun, eyes that missed nothing. So, Mrs. Hayes, Vance cut her meat with surgical precision. How long are you planning to stay? 3 days, maybe 4, depending on the weather. The weather. Vance's smile was thin. Yes, that's always the variable here, isn't it? The thing we can't control. Lieutenant Chen sat across from them, eating in silence. Beside him, Captain Rodriguez, artillery commander, pushed food around his plate without eating. The tension in the room was thick enough to choke on. Something wrong with the food, Captain Rodriguez? David's voice carried the edge of command. Rodriguez looked up, startled. No, sir, just tired. Then eat. You'll need your strength. The words hung in the air. You'll need your strength. For what? Catherine watched the officers exchange glances. They knew something, or suspected something, or feared something. After dinner, David walked her back to his quarters. The temperature had dropped 15 degrees, and snow had started to fall. Catherine pulled her jacket tighter. They're scared, she said quietly. They're cautious. There's a difference. David, drop it, Cat, please. He stopped outside his door. Can we just have one night? One night where we're just a husband and wife, not, he gestured vaguely, not all the rest of it? She wanted to argue. Every instinct screamed at her to push, to prepare, to do something. But the exhaustion in David's eyes stopped her. Okay, she said. One night. They didn't get it. At 0200, the first mortar round hit the eastern checkpoint. Catherine was already awake when it happened. She'd been lying in the darkness, listening to David's breathing, cataloging every sound from outside. The wind, the crunch of boots on snow, the far-off howl of something that might have been an animal or might have been something else. Then the world exploded. The blast wave hit the prefab structure like a fist. Catherine rolled off the cot, hitting the floor in a crouch. David was up a second later, reaching for his rifle. "Stay here," he barked, already moving toward the door. "Like hell." Catherine grabbed her jacket, pulled on her boots. Another explosion, closer this time. The lights flickered and died. David's hand shot out, grabbed her arm. "Catherine, please, let me do my job." She met his eyes in the darkness. "Then let me do mine." For a heartbeat, they stared at each other. Then the radio on David's desk crackled to life. "Contact! Contact! Eastern checkpoint is overrun. We've got at least 20 hostiles, maybe more. They're—" The voice dissolved into static and gunfire. David released her arm and sprinted for the door. Catherine followed. The base was chaos. Soldiers ran in every direction, some toward defensive positions, others dragging wounded away from the firefight. Tracer rounds cut through the falling snow like deadly fireflies. Catherine's training took over, her mind processing the tactical situation even as her feet carried her forward. The attack was coordinated, too coordinated. 3 points of assault, eastern checkpoint, northern wire, and a probe on the western side to pin down reinforcements. This wasn't a random raid. This was planned. "Catherine!" David's voice cut through the noise. He'd stopped at the command center, was pulling on body armor and checking his weapon. "Get to the shelter. There's a reinforced bunker by the—" "I'm not hiding in a bunker while people die. That's an order." "I don't take orders from you, Captain." She stepped closer, had to shout over another explosion. "Give me a rifle." "No." "David, I will not watch you die." His voice cracked. "I won't. So please, please, just do this one thing. Get to the shelter. Stay safe. Let me focus on keeping my men alive without worrying about you." Lieutenant Chen burst through the door, blood streaming from a cut above his eye. "Sir, we need you at the eastern position. They're pushing hard. Rodriguez is calling for artillery support, but we can't get a clear shot without risking our own people." David looked at Catherine one more time. Shelter, now. Then he was gone, Chen at his heels, leaving Catherine standing alone in the flickering emergency lights. She counted to 5, then she moved. The armory was unlocked, standard protocol during an attack. Catherine slipped inside, her eyes adjusting to the darkness. Rifles lined the walls. She selected an M4, checked the action, grabbed 3 magazines. A Beretta M9 went into her waistband. She was halfway out the door when a hand closed around her wrist. Major Vance stood in the doorway, her face hard. "Going somewhere, Mrs. Hayes? Let go of me. The captain gave you an order." "The captain doesn't command me." Catherine's voice dropped to something cold and dangerous. "Now let go." Vance's grip tightened. "I know what you are. Chen told me. Former SEAL, sniper, classified missions. Very impressive." Her eyes narrowed. "But you're not in the field anymore. You're a liability, a distraction. And if you go out there, you'll get people killed." Catherine looked down at the hand on her wrist, then back up at Vance's face. "You have 3 seconds to release me." "Or what?" "Or I'll break your wrist. Then I'll take that rifle anyway. And then I'll save this base while you're getting medical attention." Vance stared at her. Something shifted behind her eyes. Calculation, reassessment. Her hand open. Catherine pulled free. "Smart choice, Major. If you get my people killed, then you can kill me yourself." Catherine pushed past her into the snow. "But right now your people need me." She moved through the chaos like a ghost. Soldiers ran past without seeing her, their focus on the firefight at the eastern wall. Catherine's mind worked the angles, the distances, the tactical geography she'd memorized during her tour earlier. The ridge. She needed the ridge. The northern side of the base backed up against a steep slope that climbed to a rocky outcropping. In daylight, it offered a commanding view of the entire compound. In darkness, during a firefight, it would give her exactly what she needed. Sight lines on the attackers without exposing herself to friendly fire. The climb took 4 minutes. Her hands found purchase on frozen rock. Her boots dug into snow and scree. Training from a lifetime ago came flooding back. The feel of elevation, the way sound carried differently in mountain terrain, the cold clarity that came with being alone in a high place. At the top, Catherine dropped prone and brought the rifle up. The scope was decent, not perfect. She'd have preferred her own gear, but this would work. She scanned the battlefield below. The eastern checkpoint was a nightmare. Bodies lay scattered in the snow, both American and enemy. The attackers had pushed through the wire and were using the destroyed checkpoint as cover, pouring fire into the base. More were advancing from the tree line. Catherine counted them. 23 visible hostiles, probably more she couldn't see. They wore mismatched tactical gear and moved with military precision. Not random insurgents, trained fighters. Her finger found the trigger. She exhaled slowly, let her heartbeat settle, found the rhythm. The world narrowed to the scope, to the crosshairs, to the target. The first shot took the enemy commander in the throat. He went down hard, and suddenly the coordinated assault faltered. The second shot dropped the fighter manning their heavy machine gun. The third and fourth took out the 2 men trying to reach the gun. Below, she heard David's voice over the chaos. "What the hell? Where's that coming from?" Catherine kept firing. She worked methodically, prioritizing targets, anyone giving orders, anyone with heavy weapons, anyone attempting to organize the scattered attack. With each shot, the enemy's cohesion broke down further. But they were learning fast. One of them spotted her muzzle flash. He shouted something in Pashto, pointed toward the ridge. 3 fighters broke off from the main assault, started climbing toward her position. Catherine shifted aim, tracked the lead climber. The shot was difficult. Upward angle, moving target, poor light. She compensated for elevation, led the target, squeezed. Miss. The round sparked off rock 2 feet to the left. The fighters scattered using cover now. Smart. Catherine worked the bolt, chambered another round. She needed to relocate, but if she moved now, she'd lose her overwatch position. The base defenders were rallying, but they still needed her fire support. A decision in microseconds. Stay and fight or retreat to a secondary position. The choice was made for her. Something hard and heavy crashed into her from behind, driving her face first into the frozen ground. The rifle flew from her hands. Before she could react, rough hands grabbed her arms, wrenched them behind her back. The bite of a zip tie cut into her wrists. "Got her!" The voice was young, excited. "Got the sniper!" Catherine twisted, trying to see her attacker. 2 of them, the fighters who'd been climbing toward her. They must have split up, flanked her while she was focused on the third. Stupid, sloppy, amateur mistake. One of them kicked her rifle away, then grabbed her hair and yanked her head back. "American woman," he spat, "playing soldier." The other one laughed, pulled out a radio. "This is Eagle 2. We captured the sniper. It's a woman. Bringing her down now." Static, then a voice crackling through. "Copy that. Command wants her alive. We'll use her for leverage." They dragged Catherine to her feet. Her mind raced through scenarios. The zip tie was tight, but not impossible. She could still move her fingers, which meant the circulation wasn't completely cut off. Her legs were free. If she could, pain exploded across her face as one of them backhanded her. "Don't think, just walk." They marched her down the slope at gunpoint. The fighting below had intensified. David and his men had organized a counterattack, pushing toward the breached checkpoint. But more enemy fighters had emerged from the tree line, and the Americans were outnumbered. The fighters dragged Catherine around the perimeter, away from the main battle, toward the western side of the base, toward the supply bunker. That's when she realized what was happening. This wasn't just an assault, it was a raid. They were after the weapons cache in the supply bunker, and now they had a hostage. 4 more fighters waited at the bunker entrance. One of them, tall, scarred face, yellow teeth visible in the glow from a chemical light, smiled when he saw her. "She can't escape," he roared, and the others laughed. "American woman, soft, weak." Catherine's eyes tracked the spacing between them. 3 feet, 4.5, 6. Her breathing stayed even. The scar-faced one leaned closer, his breath hot and rancid. "You die here, yes?" Catherine's lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. "No," she whispered. Then she moved. Her training had covered exactly this scenario. Wrist-bound, multiple hostiles, confined space. The key was violence of action. Hit hard, hit fast. Don't stop until everyone's down or you're dead. Catherine's head snapped forward, smashing into Scarface's nose. Cartilage crunched, blood sprayed. Before he could even scream, she pivoted and drove her boot into the knee of the fighter on her right. The joint bent backward with a wet pop. The other 3 were reaching for their weapons, but Catherine was already moving. She spun toward the nearest one, brought her bound wrists up under his chin in a vicious uppercut that snapped his head back. As he staggered, she hooked her foot behind his ankle and drove him to the ground. A rifle butt caught her in the ribs. Pain. She ignored it. Catherine dropped low, swept the legs out from under the fighter with the rifle, came up behind him as he fell, and wrapped her zip-tied wrists around his throat. She squeezed, using her entire body weight, counting seconds. 3, 4, 5. He went limp. The last fighter standing had his AK-47 up, finger on the trigger. Catherine grabbed the unconscious man in front of her, used him as a shield. The burst of gunfire chewed into the body. She felt the impacts, felt warm blood splash across her face. Then the rifle clicked empty. Catherine threw the corpse forward, bowling over the shooter. She was on him in a heartbeat, drove her knee into his solar plexus, felt ribs crack. He gasped, tried to bring the rifle around. She kicked it away, then brought both fists down on the back of his neck. Silence. Heavy breathing. 6 fighters down in less than 15 seconds. Catherine dropped to her knees, found a knife on one of the bodies, cut through the zip ties. Her wrists were raw and bleeding, but her hands still worked. She grabbed an AK-47, checked the magazine. Half full. Good enough. Outside, the battle still raged. Catherine emerged from the bunker, weapon up, scanning for targets. The base defenders had pushed the main assault force back to the tree line, but the enemy wasn't retreating. They were regrouping. She needed to get back to David. Needed to... "Catherine!" She spun. Lieutenant Chen ran toward her, 3 soldiers at his back. His eyes widened when he saw the blood covering her. "Are you hit?" "Not my blood." She gestured toward the bunker. 6 hostiles down. They were after the weapons cache. Chen's jaw dropped. "You, by yourself? Where's David?" "Eastern checkpoint, he's..." Chen stopped, his expression shifting. "He thinks you're in the shelter. He doesn't know you're out here." "Then don't tell him until after we win." Catherine checked her weapon again. "What's the tactical situation?" "They pulled back to regroup, but we've got wounded and..." "How many snipers do you have?" "2. Both tied up providing cover fire for the casualty evacuation." "You've got 3 now." Catherine started moving toward the eastern checkpoint. "Get me a proper rifle with a good scope. I'll take the high ground and start picking off their command structure. Without leadership, they'll break." Chen hesitated for exactly 1 second. Then he nodded. "Rodriguez, get Mrs. Hayes an M24 and 3 boxes of ammunition. Move." The battle wasn't over. But Catherine Hayes was done being a hostage, done being helpless, done pretending she was just the captain's wife. She was a weapon, and it was time to remind everyone, friend and enemy alike, exactly what that meant. Rodriguez met her halfway across the compound with the M24, his hands shaking as he thrust the rifle toward her. "Mrs. Hayes, the scope's already zeroed and I've got..." Catherine took the weapon, checked the action in one fluid motion. Ammunition. 3 boxes like the lieutenant said, but where's your highest vantage point with clear sight lines to the tree line? Rodriguez pointed toward the communications tower on the western edge. Up there, but it's exposed, and if they spot you, they won't. Catherine was already moving. Chen caught up to her, breathing hard. Mrs. Hayes, wait. The captain needs to know you're... The captain needs me to stop those fighters from regrouping. She didn't break stride. You want to help? Keep everyone off that tower until I'm in position. And when Captain Hayes asks where you are? Catherine stopped, turned to face him. The chemical lights cast harsh shadows across her blood-streaked face. Tell him the truth, Lieutenant. Tell him his wife is doing her job. She climbed. The tower was steel and ice, her hands numb within seconds. Below, someone shouted orders. Gunfire erupted from the eastern checkpoint, sporadic now, not the sustained fire from before. The enemy was conserving ammunition, preparing for something. At the top, Catherine dropped prone on the narrow platform. The rifle came up, scope finding targets. Through the optics, she could see movement in the tree line. 20, maybe 25 fighters regrouping. One of them was gesturing, pointing toward the base. Not random gestures, tactical hand signals. Military trained, definitely military trained. She found her breathing rhythm, let her heartbeat slow. The first shot took the one giving signals. He dropped mid-gesture, and the others scattered. Catherine worked the bolt, tracked, fired, another down. The panic was instant. They thought they were safe in the trees, beyond effective range. They were wrong. Jesus Christ, the voice came from below. Catherine glanced down to see Major Vance staring up at her, a radio in her hand. How many is that? 8, Catherine returned to the scope. Tell your artillery to target grid 274, elevation. Captain Hayes wants to speak with you. Catherine's finger froze on the trigger. I'm busy. He knows you're out here, Chen told him. Vance's voice carried an edge, and he's not happy. He can be unhappy after we win. Catherine tracked another target, compensated for wind, fired. Grid 274, do it now or we lose the advantage. Vance hesitated, then spoke into the radio. Rodriguez, fire mission. Grid 274, elevation 300, high explosive, 5 rounds. The artillery thundered. Catherine watched through the scope as the tree line erupted, earth and shrapnel, and human bodies torn apart by the explosions. The enemy fighters broke formation, some running deeper into the forest, others trying to return fire. Wasted shots. They couldn't see her, couldn't reach her. Cease fire! Catherine lowered the rifle. They're retreating. Copy that. Vance lowered her radio, then climbed the first few rungs of the tower. Mrs. Hayes, Catherine, you need to come down now. I need to maintain overwatch until... David is on his way here, and he's furious. Vance's eyes held something like sympathy. Whatever you two need to work out, don't do it in front of the men. Please. Catherine looked back toward the eastern checkpoint. She could see figures moving, soldiers regrouping, medics working on the wounded. The shooting had stopped, for now. She descended. Her legs were steady, her hands sure, but something in her chest felt tight. She'd known this moment would come, known David would find out. But in the chaos of combat, it had been easy to ignore the consequences. Now the fighting was done, and consequences were all that remained. David was waiting at the base of the tower. Even in the darkness, she could see the fury radiating off him. Chen stood a few feet behind, trying to look anywhere else. Rodriguez had suddenly become very interested in checking his artillery equipment. Catherine, David's voice was ice, with me, now. They walked in silence to his quarters. Catherine still carried the M24, still wore the borrowed tactical vest. David's rifle was slung across his back, his uniform torn and blood-stained. Neither spoke until the door closed behind them. Then David exploded. What the hell were you thinking? He rounded on her, and for a moment she saw something raw and terrible in his eyes. I gave you a direct order to get to the shelter, and I don't take orders from you. On my base, you damn well do. This isn't about your base. Catherine's voice rose to match his. This is about you wanting to keep me safe while good people die because you're too proud to use every asset available. You're not an asset. You're my wife. David's hands clenched into fists. Do you have any idea what went through my mind when Chen told me you were out there? When he said you'd taken out 6 fighters in the supply bunker? When Vance radioed that you were on the tower picking off targets like... His voice cracked. Like you'd never stopped being a SEAL. I haven't stopped. The words came out quieter than she intended. I just pretended I did. For you. The silence stretched between them, filled with everything they'd never said. All the conversations they'd avoided. All the compromises they'd made to build something normal. David's shoulders sagged. Kat, I saw the bodies. In the bunker. What you did to them. He met her eyes. That's not the woman I married. Yes, it is. Catherine set the rifle against the wall. This is who I've always been, David. You just didn't want to see it. I wanted you to be safe. I am safe. I'm the safest person on this entire base because I know how to fight, how to survive, how to... She stopped herself, breathed. You can't protect me from what I am. Before David could respond, someone pounded on the door. Captain Hayes! Sir, you need to come to the command center immediately. David held Catherine's gaze for another heartbeat. This conversation isn't over. I know. They ran. The command center was chaos. Officers shouting over each other, radios crackling with competing chatter, maps spread across every surface. Lieutenant Chen saw them enter and push through the crowd. Sir, we've got a situation. The fighters didn't retreat. They regrouped at grid 279, about 3 clicks east. How many? Satellite imagery shows at least 40, maybe more. They're bringing up heavy weapons. Chen pulled up grainy photos on a laptop. RPGs, mortars, possibly a technical with a heavy machine gun. Vance leaned over the laptop. That's twice the force we just repelled. They're not raiding anymore. They're preparing for a full assault. ETA on reinforcements? David's voice had shifted back to command mode. 6 hours minimum. The storm's grounded all helicopters and ground transport can't get through the passes. Chen looked up. Sir, we're on our own. Catherine studied the map, her mind automatically working the tactical problem. They'll hit us at dawn, give themselves light to coordinate the assault, but early enough that we're still exhausted from the first attack. Every officer in the room turned to look at her. David's jaw tightened, but he didn't contradict her. She's right. Rodriguez traced a finger across the map. If I was planning it, I'd use mortars to soften us up, then push through our weakest point while we're still trying to respond. With our casualties from the first attack, we can't cover all the approaches. Then we don't try to cover everything. Catherine moved closer to the map. We give them what they want. What? A weak point, something obvious, something they'll commit to. Her finger landed on the southern checkpoint. Here, we pull back our defenders, make it look undermanned. When they commit their force, we hit them from the flanks with everything we have. Vance shook her head. That's a massive risk. If they break through before we can respond, they won't, because I'll be on overwatch. Catherine looked at David. Give me 2 spotters in clear firing lanes. I can slow their assault long enough for your flanking elements to close. Chen was nodding. It could work. We've got claymores we can position along their likely approach. When they trigger them, no. David's voice cut through the planning. Absolutely not. Captain, with respect, Chen started. I said no. David's eyes never left Catherine. We'll reinforce all checkpoints, dig in, and hold until reinforcements arrive. And if they overwhelm us? Catherine kept her voice level. If they break through and overrun the base, how many of your soldiers die because you were too stubborn to use an effective tactic? How many die because I gambled everything on a trap that failed? David shot back. This isn't some black ops mission, Kat. These are real people, with families, with... You think I don't know that? Catherine's hands slammed down on the table. You think I haven't counted every life that depends on making the right call? That's exactly why you need to let me do this. The room had gone silent. Every officer was staring at them, watching the confrontation unfold. Major Vance cleared her throat. Perhaps we should take a moment to... No. Catherine didn't look away from David. We don't have a moment. They're coming at dawn, and we need a plan that works, not one that makes you feel better about keeping me out of danger. David's face was stone. My decision is final. We reinforce and hold. Then you're condemning your men to die. That's enough. David's voice cracked like a whip. Lieutenant Chen, implement Defensive Protocol 7. All personnel to their positions. Major Vance, coordinate casualty evacuation procedures. Rodriguez, I want artillery pre-sighted on all approach vectors. He finally looked at Catherine. And you're confined to quarters until this is over. You can't. I can and I will. That's an order, Mrs. Hayes. The formality cut deeper than any curse could have. Sergeant Miller, escort Mrs. Hayes to my quarters and keep her there. A young sergeant stepped forward, clearly uncomfortable. Sir, That's an order, Sergeant. Miller swallowed hard. Yes, sir. Ma'am, if you'll come with me. Catherine looked around the room. Chen wouldn't meet her eyes. Rodriguez was staring at his artillery maps. Only Vance looked back, and her expression held something like regret. You're making a mistake, Catherine said quietly. It's my mistake to make. David turned away from her. Dismissed. The walk back to David's quarters felt like a death march. Miller walked 2 steps behind, his rifle slung but ready. Catherine's mind raced through options. She could overpower Miller easily, take his weapon, disappear into the base. But that would make her a hostile combatant, would force David to treat her as a threat. And despite everything, she couldn't do that to him. At the door to the quarters, Miller shifted uncomfortably. Ma'am, I'm supposed to stand guard outside. Make sure that you stay inside. I understand, Sergeant. You're doing your job. For what it's worth, ma'am, Miller hesitated. What you did tonight, taking out those fighters, saving the weapons cache, that was something. Catherine managed a small smile. Thank you, Sergeant. Inside, she paced. The room felt like a cage. Through the small window, she could see soldiers moving through the base, reinforcing positions, preparing for the coming assault, doing everything David had ordered, everything wrong. She couldn't just sit here, couldn't watch good people die because of pride and fear and love all twisted together into something toxic. But she also couldn't betray David. Not really, not in a way he could never forgive. Catherine sat on the cot, her mind working the problem from every angle. There had to be a way, something she could do that would help, without destroying everything she and David had built. An hour passed, then 2. Through the window, she watched the sky begin to lighten, dawn approaching. The attack would come soon. The door opened. Catherine was on her feet instantly, but it was only Chen, carrying a radio and wearing an expression of controlled panic. Mrs. Hayes, we need you. David, the captain is at the eastern checkpoint, coordinating the defense. He doesn't know I'm here. Chen thrust the radio at her. They hit us 10 minutes ago. Not from the east like we expected, from the north. They flanked us, came down from the high ground. We're already falling back. Catherine took the radio, her training overriding everything else. Casualties? 7 dead, 15 wounded. They've got us pinned at the command center, and they're pushing hard. Chen's voice cracked. We're going to lose, Mrs. Hayes, unless you can... Where's David? Fighting, bleeding, trying to hold them off with half the force he needs. Chen met her eyes. Please, he doesn't have to know you helped. But if you don't, we all die, including him. Catherine looked at the radio in her hand, at Chen's desperate face, at the window showing the base being overrun. She'd promised David one thing, promised herself another, and now she had to choose which promise to break. "Sergeant Miller," she called. Miller opened the door, his rifle coming up. "Ma'am, you need to—" Catherine moved. One hand grabbed the rifle barrel, forced it down and aside. The other struck Miller in the solar plexus, a controlled blow that dropped him to his knees, gasping but uninjured. She caught him as he fell, lowered him gently to the floor. "I'm sorry, Sergeant, but I have a job to do." Chen was already pulling weapons from David's locker. "There's a secondary access to the tower. If you can get up there—" "I know what to do." Catherine checked the rifle, grabbed ammunition. "When David finds out, I'll tell him it was my call, that I disobeyed orders." Chen handed her a tactical vest. "He can court-martial me after we survive." They ran. The base was a war zone. Bodies lay in the snow, American and enemy both. Smoke rose from burning structures. The command center was surrounded, soldiers fighting from behind overturned vehicles and sandbag barriers. And there, in the middle of it all, was David. He was covered in blood and dirt, his rifle empty, fighting hand-to-hand with two insurgents. Catherine watched him take a knife slash across his shoulder, saw him drop one attacker with an elbow strike that caved in the man's temple. Then a third fighter raised his weapon, aimed at David's back. Catherine's rifle came up. She didn't think, didn't hesitate. The shot took the fighter in the head before his finger could finish pulling the trigger. David spun, searching for the source of the shot. His eyes found her across the chaos. For one frozen moment, they stared at each other. She saw recognition in his eyes, then understanding, then something that might have been gratitude or might have been grief. He nodded once. Catherine nodded back. Then she turned and ran for the tower, because the battle wasn't over and people were still dying, and there would be time for consequences later, if they survived. The tower ladder was slick with ice and blood. Catherine's hands found purchase through muscle memory, her body moving on autopilot while her mind cataloged the battlefield below. 18 enemy fighters visible, maybe more behind the burning vehicles. The command center was surrounded on three sides. David's defensive line was collapsing. She reached the platform and dropped prone. The M24 came up, scope finding targets through the smoke in chaos. First shot took out a fighter with an RPG aimed at the command center. Second dropped the machine gunner, pinning down Rodriguez's artillery crew. Third, fourth, fifth. She worked systematically, prioritizing threats, creating openings. "Talk to me, Chen." Catherine keyed the radio between shots. "Where do you need me?" Static. Then Chen's voice came through rough and strained. "Western approach. They're pushing hard. We've got maybe 2 minutes before they breach." Catherine swung the rifle, found the western checkpoint. 8 fighters advancing in a coordinated assault pattern. 2 coordinated. She tracked the one giving hand signals, compensated for distance and wind, fired. He went down. The formation faltered. "Breach stopped. What else?" "You just—" Chen's voice cracked with something between relief and disbelief. "Medical tent. They're targeting our wounded. 3 shooters on the roof of Supply Building 7. Catherine found them. They were good, using the roof's parapet for cover, firing controlled bursts at the Red Cross markers. She waited for one to expose himself, squeezed the trigger. Miss. The round sparked off concrete 6 inches left. She compensated, fired again. Down. The other 2 scrambled for new positions. She tracked, led the target, fired twice in quick succession. Both down. "Medical tent secure." "Catherine." David's voice came through the radio, raw with exhaustion and something else. "I need you on the eastern flank. They're bringing up another technical with a .50 caliber. No apology, no acknowledgement of their fight, just tactical necessity." Catherine felt something twist in her chest, but she pushed it down. "Copy that. Give me 30 seconds. She swung the rifle east, scanning for the vehicle. There, a pickup truck with a mounted heavy machine gun, advancing through the smoke. The gunner was behind a steel shield, protected. but the driver wasn't. Catherine's shot punched through the windshield. The truck swerved, crashed into a concrete barrier. The gunner struggled to bring the .50 caliber around, but Rodriguez's artillery crew had already seen the opening. Their mortars turned the technical into a fireball. Threat eliminated. Good shooting. David's voice held grudging respect. Hold position. I'm moving third squad to reinforce the radio exploded with panicked voices. Contact north. We've got, Jesus Christ, there's at least 20 more. They're coming through the wire. Fall back to secondary positions. Catherine swung her scope north. Her blood went cold. The fighters weren't just attacking, they were executing a tactical withdrawal bait. The main force, 40, maybe 50 fighters, was pouring through a breach in the northern perimeter that hadn't even been there 10 minutes ago. They'd blown the wire. While everyone was focused on the diversionary attacks, they'd positioned charges and blown a hole 20 feet wide. David, they played us. Everything else was misdirection. The real assault is coming from the north. I see it. David's voice was pure ice now. Command mode fully engaged. Chen, collapse the western defense. Pull everyone back to the command center. Rodriguez, I need fire on that breach, now. Sir, if I fire there, I'll hit our own people. Then wait until our people are clear. Vance, get those wounded moved to the secondary bunker. If they take the command center, we lose everything. Catherine watched through the scope as David orchestrated the retreat. He was good at this, she realized. Maybe better than she'd given him credit for. He moved between positions, dragging wounded soldiers to cover, laying down suppressing fire, never stopping even as blood ran down his arm from the knife wound. But good wasn't going to be enough. The northern force was cutting through the defenders like a blade through paper. They had the numbers, the position, the momentum. In 5 minutes, maybe less, they'd overrun the command center. Unless, David, I need you to trust me. Silence on the radio. Then, what are you thinking? I can't stop them all from here. The angle's wrong, and they're using smoke for cover. Catherine's mind raced through the tactical problem. But if I can get to the communications relay station on the North Ridge, I'll have clear sight lines to the entire breach. I can slow them down. That relay station is 300 meters outside our perimeter. You'll be completely exposed. I know. Catherine, we're out of options, David. You know it. I know it. She kept her voice steady. Either I try this or in 5 minutes they're standing over your body. More silence. Catherine counted heartbeats. 4, 5, 6. Do it. David's voice was barely a whisper. Chen, cover her approach. Rodriguez, I need smoke on the northern sector. Vance, prep a rescue team in case. He stopped himself. Just prep the team. Catherine was already moving. She slung the rifle across her back, grabbed 2 extra magazines, checked her sidearm. The climb down from the tower took 15 seconds. At the bottom, Chen was waiting with a grim expression in an armored vest. Put this on. It'll slow me down. Put it on or I'll tackle you and force it on you. Chen's eyes held no humor. If you die out there, the captain will never forgive himself. Or me. Catherine took the vest, shrugged it on. It was heavy, restricting, but Chen was right. She grabbed the rifle and started running. The northern perimeter was chaos. Soldiers fired from whatever cover they could find, falling back in stages as the enemy advanced. Catherine spotted Private Miller, the kid she'd knocked unconscious earlier, firing controlled bursts from behind an overturned Humvee. His face was covered in soot and determination. Miller, I need covering fire for 30 seconds. The private's head snapped around. For a moment, confusion flickered across his face. Then he nodded. Yes, ma'am. On your mark. Mark! Miller and 3 other soldiers opened up, pouring rounds at the breach. Catherine sprinted. Her boots found purchase on ice and blood-soaked snow. Bullets cracked past her head. Something tugged at her vest. Impact, but the armor held. She kept running. The perimeter fence was twisted metal and smoke. Catherine vaulted a burned-out barrier, landed hard, rolled, came up running. 20 meters to the ridge. 15. 10. An insurgent appeared from behind a boulder, rifle coming up. Catherine's hand dropped to her sidearm. Drew. Fired 3 rounds, center mass. He went down. She was past him before his body hit the ground. The relay station was a small concrete bunker with a communications array on top. Catherine hit the door at full speed, shoulder first. It burst open. Inside was dark, cold, empty except for humming equipment and a body. Sergeant Harris from Communications. Throat cut, still warm. They'd already been here, had already neutralized the relay, which meant, "Ambush!" Catherine screamed into the radio. "It's an ambush! They knew I'd come here, they—" Hands grabbed her from behind, wrenched the rifle away. Catherine twisted, drove her elbow back, felt it connect with something soft. A grunt of pain. She spun, saw 2 fighters in the darkness. One was already raising his weapon. Catherine dove. The burst of gunfire chewed into the wall where she'd been standing. Her hand found Harris's dropped sidearm, came up firing. The first fighter went down. The second lunged at her with a knife. Catherine caught his wrist, redirected the blade, drove her knee into his groin. He doubled over. She took the knife away, used it. Silence except for her own ragged breathing. "Catherine!" David's voice through the radio was desperate. "Catherine, respond!" She keyed the transmit. "I'm okay, but the relay's compromised. They were waiting for me." "Fall back, now!" "Negative, I can still work from here." Catherine moved to the doorway, scanned for her rifle. There, 10 feet away, lying in the snow. She sprinted out, grabbed it, scrambled back inside. Through the doorway, she had a clear view of the northern breach, and what she saw made her stomach drop. The fighters weren't just overwhelming the defenses. They were moving with specific purpose, flowing around certain buildings, avoiding others, heading straight for... "David, they're not trying to take the base. They're going for the armory. This whole thing is a weapons raid." "That doesn't make sense. The armory's hardened, reinforced. It would take..." David stopped. "Unless they already have someone inside." Catherine's mind flashed back to the past 2 days. The oddities she'd noticed. The security gaps. The too perfect timing of this assault. "You have a mole." Impossible. Every soldier here has been vetted, cleared. Then they turned someone, or planted someone. Or... Catherine stopped as a thought hit her like a physical blow. "David, who knew I was coming? Who knew exactly when I'd be arriving?" Silence on the radio, then quietly. "Chen coordinated your transport. Vance handled the security clearances. Rodriguez processed the flight manifest." A pause. "And I told my senior staff 2 days before you arrived." Catherine watched through the scope as the enemy force reached the armory building. They didn't breach the door. They didn't blow the locks. Someone opened it from the inside. "They've got it. They're inside. All units." David's voice cracked over the radio like a whip. "Converge on the armory. Lethal force authorized. Chen, get me..." "Sir, Chen's not responding." That was Rodriguez, his voice tight with fear. "I've been calling him for the last 2 minutes. Nothing." Catherine felt ice in her veins. "When did he stop responding?" "Right after he gave you covering fire. Right after he..." Rodriguez's voice changed. "Oh God. Sir, Chen was the only one who knew Mrs. Hayes was going to the relay station. He's the one who told her to go there." "No." David's voice was hollow. "No, Chen's been with me for 3 years. He's solid. He's the mole." Catherine was already moving, running back toward the base. "And he sent me out here to get me out of the way. David, he's going for you. Whatever they're doing, they need you dead to complete it." She ran. Her legs burned, her lungs screamed, but she ran. Behind her, the relay station exploded. They'd wired it with explosives, timed to detonate after they'd drawn her out. The blast wave knocked her forward. She hit the ground, rolled, came up running. David, respond. David. Static. Catherine burst through the perimeter. The northern breach was chaos, fighters and defenders locked in close combat. She fired as she ran, dropping targets, not breaking stride. A fighter lunged at her with a machete. She ducked under the swing, drove the rifle stock into his jaw, kept moving. The command center was burning. Bodies everywhere, American and enemy both. And there, in the center of it all, was Chen. He stood over David, who was on his knees, bleeding from a dozen wounds. Chen held a pistol to David's head. "I'm sorry, Captain." Chen's voice was steady, almost sad. "You're a good officer, a good man, but this isn't personal. It's just business." "Chen, don't!" Catherine's rifle came up, but the angle was wrong. Too many friendlies in the way, too much smoke. "Whatever they're paying you, whatever they promised me my daughter gets to live." Chen's hand trembled, but the gun stayed steady. "She's 8 years old, and they have her. So unless you can get her back in the next 10 seconds, Captain Hayes dies." David looked up, met Chen's eyes. "Marcus, listen to me. We can work this out. We can get your daughter back. But if you do this, if you kill me, they'll kill her anyway. That's how this works. You know that." "Maybe." Chen's finger tightened on the trigger. "But at least I'll have tried." Catherine was 40 feet away. Too far. Too many obstacles. She'd never make the shot clean, and even if she did, David moved. He was wounded, exhausted, outgunned, but he was also a combat veteran with 20 years of experience. His hand shot up, grabbed Chen's wrist, twisted. The gun went off, the round punching into the ground. David drove his shoulder into Chen's chest, took him to the ground. They fought, brutal, desperate, no technique, just raw survival. Chen was younger, faster. David was stronger, more experienced. They rolled, grappled, both reaching for the dropped pistol. Chen got there first. He brought the weapon up, aimed at David's chest. Catherine's shot took him in the shoulder. He spun, the pistol flying from his hand. She was already moving, closing the distance, rifle up. "Don't move. Don't even breathe." Chen sagged against a concrete barrier, blood streaming from his shoulder. "You should have let me finish it. He's going to die anyway. We all are." "What are you talking about?" David staggered to his feet, retrieved Chen's pistol. "The armory." Chen's laugh was bitter. "You think they wanted the weapons? Those are just bonus. They wanted the C4, the remote detonators, and the access codes to the ammunition storage." He looked up at David. "They're going to blow the base, all of it, and there's nothing you can do to stop it." David and Catherine exchanged glances. The ammunition storage held enough ordnance to level forward operating base Granite and everything for half a mile around it. "When?" David grabbed Chen by his vest, hauled him up. "When are they triggering it?" "I don't know. They didn't tell me, but I'd guess." Chen checked his watch. "Soon. Very soon." Catherine keyed her radio. "All units, this is Mrs. Hayes. Emergency evacuation order. The base is rigged to explode. Everyone to the vehicles. Now!" Chaos. Soldiers broke off from fighting, started running. The insurgents realized something was wrong, started withdrawing too. Nobody wanted to be there when the ammunition storage went up. "Rodriguez!" David limped toward the artillery position. "How many vehicles do we have operational?" "4 Humvees, 2 transport trucks." Rodriguez was already organizing the evacuation. "Sir, we've got 23 wounded and—" "Load them first. Cram as many as you can fit. Vance, gather anyone who can't make it to a vehicle. We'll have to carry them." Catherine scanned the base, her tactical mind working the problem. "David, the detonator has to be somewhere nearby. They'd need line of sight to make sure everyone was clear before—" "The tower." They both said it at the same time. Catherine was already running. David followed, limping badly now but keeping pace. They reached the tower together, started climbing. At the top, they found it. A military-grade radio detonator, jury-rigged to a commercial satellite phone. A timer counted down on the phone screen. 4 minutes, 37 seconds. Can you disarm it? David's hands hovered over the device. Maybe, if I had 10 minutes and the right tools. Catherine studied the setup. But we don't have either. Then we take it with us. David started to reach for it. Wait. Catherine grabbed his hand. Look at the setup. It's not just a timer. It's also receiving a signal. If that satellite connection drops, if someone's monitoring and sees the device move, it detonates immediately. David's face went gray. So we can't move it, and we can't disarm it. And we can't evacuate in time. Catherine looked down at the base below. Soldiers were loading into vehicles, but it was too slow, too chaotic. They'd never get everyone clear, unless someone stayed behind. Someone who could wait until the last possible second, give everyone else time to escape, then try to abort the detonation at the final moment. A suicide mission, with maybe a 10% chance of survival. Catherine and David locked eyes. She saw the same calculation in his face that she felt in her own heart. I'll stay. They both said it simultaneously. No, David's voice was firm. I'm the commanding officer. This is my responsibility. You're wounded and you can barely walk. You'd never make it clear even if you managed to abort the detonation. Catherine gripped his arm. I'm faster, I'm healthier, and I know explosives better than you do. Catherine, David, she cupped his face in her hands. I love you. I have always loved you. But right now you need to trust me. Trust that I can do this. Trust that I'm going to make it out. She pulled him close, kissed him hard. Now go save your men. I can't, David's voice broke. I can't lose you. You won't, I promise. Catherine pushed him toward the ladder. But you have to go, now. For one heartbeat, David stood frozen. Then his training took over. He moved to the ladder, started climbing down. Halfway, he looked back up at her. 3 minutes after the last vehicle clears the perimeter. That's your window. I know. And Catherine, when you abort the detonation, when you're running, his voice caught. Run toward me. I'll be waiting. Then he was gone. Catherine turned back to the detonator. 3 minutes, 41 seconds. She keyed her radio one last time. All units, this is Mrs. Hayes. You have 3 minutes to clear the perimeter. After that, this base becomes a crater. Move fast and God be with you. Catherine's hands didn't shake as she examined the detonator. Years of training had burned the fear response out of her, replaced it with something colder and more useful. 3 minutes, 28 seconds. The satellite phone's screen glowed in the darkness, numbers counting down with mechanical indifference. Below, engines roared to life. Soldiers shouted coordinates, called names, dragged wounded into trucks. Catherine forced herself not to watch. Couldn't afford the distraction. Couldn't afford to think about David down there, organizing the evacuation while knowing his wife was up here with a bomb. She keyed her radio. Rodriguez, I need you to answer a technical question. Static, then Rodriguez's voice came through, strained and breathless. Mrs. Hayes, I'm kind of busy right now. How much C4 did we have in the armory? A pause. Maybe 60 pounds? Why? And the ammunition storage. If it all goes up, what's the blast radius? Half mile, maybe more. Mrs. Hayes, what are you thinking? Catherine studied the detonator's wiring. Military-grade, professional setup. Whoever built this knew what they were doing. I'm thinking 60 pounds of C4 isn't enough to guarantee a detonation of the ammunition storage. Not unless they place the charges in exactly the right spots. So this whole thing might be a bluff. They wanted us to evacuate, wanted to scatter us, make us vulnerable. Catherine's mind raced through the implications. Rodriguez, check the ammunition storage. Send someone to verify the charges are actually there. Ma'am, we don't have time. Do it. Now. She heard Rodriguez shouting orders. heard the clatter of boots on metal. 2 minutes, 49 seconds. The numbers mocked her. Too slow. Everything was happening too slow. Mrs. Hayes, a new voice on the radio. Vance, the last transport just pulled out. You're alone on that base. You need to abort and run. Not yet. Catherine, David's voice, rough with emotion. Please, just run. Rodriguez hasn't reported back yet. If I'm right, if this is a bluff, then we can rebuild the base, but we can't rebuild you. David's breathing was labored, probably still bleeding from his wounds. I'm ordering you to abort, right now. Catherine looked at the timer. 2 minutes, 33 seconds. Her finger hovered over the abort button, a simple red switch that in theory would cut the detonation signal. In theory. But if she was wrong, if pressing that button triggered a failsafe, Rodriguez, report. Ma'am, we're at the ammunition storage. The doors, Jesus Christ, the door's rigged with a secondary charge. If we open it, don't touch it. Check for exterior access. Windows, vents, anything. There's a ventilation shaft on the south side. Corporal Davis is... A pause. He's inside. He says he can see the main chamber. Mrs. Hayes, there are charges. Multiple charges. This isn't a bluff. Catherine's stomach dropped. How many? At least 10 he can see, maybe more. They're wired to a central detonator and... Rodriguez's voice changed. Ma'am, that detonator is receiving the same satellite signal as your device. If you abort yours, the failsafe triggers theirs. It's a dead man's switch. The words hit her like physical blows. Abort her device, and the ammunition storage explodes anyway. Don't abort, and both devices detonate in... She glanced at the timer. 2 minutes. 11 seconds. David, her voice came out steadier than she felt. You need to keep driving. Get as far away as possible. No. David. I said no. We had a deal. You run toward me, remember? She heard something in his voice she'd never heard before. Desperation. Raw and unfiltered. So run, Cat. Figure out a way to beat this thing and run. Catherine stared at the detonator, at the satellite phone receiving its signal, at the wiring connecting everything together. There had to be a way, some trick, some technique, something from her training that would... Wait. She leaned closer, studied the connection between the detonator and the phone. Standard military wiring, but the phone itself was commercial. And commercial phones had one feature military devices didn't. They could be hacked. I need someone who knows tech. Catherine's fingers flew over the device, tracing connections. Someone who can access a satellite phone's operating system remotely. That's Chen's specialty. Vance's voice was bitter, and he's unconscious in the back of a truck somewhere. Then wake him up. Mrs. Hayes, he's the one who built this thing. Why would he help us disarm it? Because his daughter is dead either way, but if he helps us, maybe, just maybe, we can make a deal. Catherine checked the timer. 1 minute, 47 seconds. Wake him up and put him on the radio. Now! She heard shouting, heard someone scream in pain, probably them slapping Chen awake. Then his voice, weak and thready. You're wasting your time. That device is perfect. I designed it myself. Perfect except for one flaw. Catherine kept her voice level. You used a commercial satellite phone, which means it's running an operating system that can be compromised. Which means if I can access the phone's processor, I can maybe cut the signal before it reaches the detonator. Silence. Then, you'd need administrative access. The password is encrypted military grade. You'd never crack it in time. Then give me the password. Chen laughed and it sounded like breaking glass. Why would I do that? Because if you don't, your daughter dies knowing her father was a traitor. But if you help me, if we survive this, I will personally hunt down whoever has her, and I will bring her home. Catherine let the promise hang in the air. That's my word, Chen, as one soldier to another. The radio crackled. Catherine counted heartbeats. 1 minute, 29 seconds. Come on, Chen. Come on. The password is Lily2016. Chen's voice broke on his daughter's name. Capital L. The operating system is Android-based. You'll need to access the developer options, bypass the security protocols, and manually terminate the satellite uplink process. How long will that take? If you know what you're doing, 45 seconds. If you don't, Chen paused, you won't make it. Catherine stared at the phone. She'd had basic tech training, knew her way around military systems, but this was different. One wrong move, one mistyped command, and talk me through it. I can't. The truck is moving too fast. I can't. Chen's voice dissolved into static. 1 minute, 16 seconds. Catherine's fingers found the phone's menu button, started navigating. Setting. Developer options. Where was... There. She typed the password. The phone unlocked. Chen, I'm in. What's next? No response. The radio was dead. Either the signal had dropped or... No, don't think about that. Focus. Catherine scrolled through options, looking for anything related to network connections, satellite uplinks, remote processes. The menu was a maze of technical jargon and nested subfolders. 53 seconds, 52, 51. There, a process labeled SAT underscore UPLINK underscore REMOTE. Had to be it. She selected it, looked for the termination option. Error message. Cannot terminate process. Remote administration lock engaged. No, no, no. Catherine's training cracked for the first time. Panic bleeding through. She tried again. Same error. The satellite uplink was locked. Couldn't be stopped without administrative override. There had to be an override command. She pulled up the command line interface, started typing commands from memory, basic Unix commands, hoping the Android system would respond. 41 seconds. The command line rejected everything. Wrong syntax, wrong system, wrong everything. Catherine's mind raced. Think like Chen. Think like someone who built a bomb designed to be absolutely fail-safe. Unless, what if fail-safe meant it could be stopped, but only by someone who knew the exact right sequence? What if Chen had built in a backdoor, some way to save himself if things went wrong? David, Catherine kept typing, kept trying. I need you to put Chen back on the radio. He's unconscious again, lost too much blood. 33 seconds. Catherine looked at the detonator, at the phone, at the mess of wires connecting them. She could cut the satellite connection physically, just slice through the antenna wire, sever the uplink. But if that triggered the failsafe, she had to choose, risk the failsafe or let the timer run out. 28 seconds. Her knife came out. Catherine traced the antenna wire to its connection point, put the blade against it. One cut, that's all it would take. One cut and either everything exploded or the signal died and she had time to work. 50-50 odds, life or death on a coin flip. Cat, what are you doing? David's voice was urgent. Your biometrics just spiked. Your heart rate. I'm making a call. Catherine took a breath. David, if this doesn't work, if I don't make it, I need you to know something. Don't do this. I need you to know that these last 3 months, pretending to be normal, pretending I wasn't a soldier anymore, her voice caught. That was the happiest I've ever been, because I was with you. 21 seconds. Catherine, please. I love you. I have always loved you, and I'm sorry I couldn't be the wife you wanted. You're exactly the wife I wanted. You're... David's voice broke. God damn it, Cat, don't you dare give up. Don't you dare. 18 seconds. Catherine pressed the blade against the wire and stopped because something Chen had said was echoing in her mind. That device is perfect. I designed it myself. Not we, Not they, myself. Which meant Chen had built this device alone. Which meant he'd tested it alone. Which meant somewhere in this bomb's construction, he'd needed a way to verify it worked without actually blowing himself up. A test mode. There had to be a test mode. Catherine dropped the knife, grabbed the phone, pulled up the command line again. She typed, test_mode_enable. Error, 14 seconds. Test mode, error, 11 seconds. What would Chen use? His daughter's name? Too obvious. A military code? Too generic. Something personal, something only he would know. 8 seconds. Catherine closed her eyes, thought back to the conversation in the truck. Chen talking about his daughter. The password was Lily2016. Lily, born 2016, which meant she was Lily_8. The phone screen flashed. Test mode enabled. All detonation sequences suspended. Timer paused at 0006. 6 seconds. She'd had 6 seconds left. Catherine's legs gave out. She dropped to her knees on the platform, the phone clutched in her shaking hands. 6 seconds. 6 seconds between life and death, between coming home to David and dying alone on a tower. Catherine! David's voice was frantic. Catherine, respond! She keyed the radio, tried to speak, couldn't. Her voice had abandoned her. She tried again, forced the words out. Timer stopped. Device neutralized. A sob caught in her throat. I'm okay. The radio exploded with voices, cheering, crying, shouting her name. But Catherine only heard David. Stay there. Don't move. I'm coming back for you. David, you can't. The base might still... I don't care. His voice was steel wrapped in velvet. You stay right there and I'm coming back. That's not a request. That's not an order. That's a promise. Catherine wanted to argue, wanted to tell him to stay safe, stay with his men. But exhaustion hit her like a wave, and all she could do was whisper, okay. She sat there on the tower, watching the eastern horizon lighten with approaching dawn. The battle was over. The bomb was disarmed. The base was saved. But something felt wrong. Catherine's training reasserted itself, pushing through the exhaustion. She looked at the detonator again, really looked at it. The device was still active, still receiving power. Test mode had paused the timer, but it hadn't disabled the charges. They were still in place, still connected, still capable of... The satellite phone vibrated in her hand. Incoming call. Catherine stared at the screen. Unknown number. International prefix. She answered, put it on speaker. Hello, Catherine. The voice was cultured, accent vaguely Eastern European. You're very clever. I'm impressed. Who is this? Someone who's been watching you for quite some time. Someone who knew exactly what you were capable of, even when you were hiding behind the role of devoted wife. A pause. Someone who orchestrated this entire attack specifically to test you. Catherine's blood ran cold. Test me. Of course. Forward Operating Base Granite was never the real target. The weapons, the ammunition, Chen's daughter, all just pieces on the board. The voice took on an almost amused quality. We wanted to see if you still had it, Catherine. The edge, the instinct, the willingness to sacrifice everything for the mission. You took a little girl hostage and orchestrated an attack that killed 17 soldiers just to test me? 18 soldiers. Private Miller died 2 minutes ago, bled out in the transport truck. The voice held no remorse. And yes, because we need to know if you're ready. Ready for what? To come back. To stop pretending you're someone you're not. The voice hardened. You were the best sniper the Navy SEALs ever produced, Catherine. 300 confirmed kills across 7 deployments. And then you walked away, married a conventional officer, tried to play house. That's my choice. Is it? Because from where I'm standing, you just spent the last 6 hours proving you can't walk away. Proving that when the bullets start flying, you're right back in the fight. A pause. We have work for you, Catherine. Real work. The kind that matters. The kind that uses your skills for something more than defending some insignificant base in the middle of nowhere. Catherine's mind raced. This wasn't random. This was recruitment. This was, if I refuse? Then in 30 seconds, test mode disengages and the detonation sequence resumes. Your husband is currently 2 miles out, racing back to save you. He'll be within the blast radius in approximately 4 minutes. The voice went cold. So you can refuse, but David dies. Your choice. Catherine looked at the phone, at the detonator, at the timer frozen at 6 seconds. You're bluffing. Chen built in test mode. He can't override it remotely. Chen built what we told him to build, including a remote override that we can trigger anytime we want. As if to prove the point, the phone vibrated again. A text message appeared. Override ready, awaiting your decision. What do you want from me? One mission. No questions, no objections, no conditions. You do the job, you walk away, and everyone you love stays safe. The voice softened. You refuse, and David Hayes becomes a statistic. Another brave soldier killed in the line of duty. How poetic. Catherine thought about David, racing back to save her. Thought about the men who'd fought beside her, who'd trusted her. Thought about Chen's daughter, wherever she was, waiting for a father who might never come home. I want proof you have Chen's daughter. I want proof she's alive. Not how this works. Then no deal. Catherine kept her voice steady. You want me? You prove you can deliver what you promise. Otherwise, I call your bluff. Silence. Then, check your phone. An image appeared. A little girl, maybe 8 years old, sitting in a concrete room. She was holding today's newspaper. Alive. Scared, but alive. Satisfied? If I do this mission, you release her. After the mission is complete. Before, or no deal. Another pause. You're not in a position to negotiate. Yes, I am. Because if you blow this base, you lose your leverage. David dies, sure, but I die too. And then you don't have your precious operator. Catherine's voice went hard. So here's my counteroffer. You release Chen's daughter right now. You give me the mission details, and I'll consider it. Consider it? That's as good as you're getting. Take it or leave it. The silence stretched. Catherine counted her heartbeats. Wondered if she just killed herself and David with her stubbornness. Wondered if... Done. The girl will be released within the hour. Check your email for mission details. The voice took on a warning edge. But Catherine, if you try to run, if you try to hide, if you breathe one word of this conversation to anyone, including your husband, I will burn everything you love to the ground. Understood? Understood. Good. Welcome back to the war, Catherine. I think you'll find it's changed quite a bit since you left. The line went dead. Catherine sat there, phone in hand, watching the sun rise over the mountains. In the distance, she could hear engines approaching. David coming back for her. David who thought the nightmare was over. But Catherine knew better, knew that this was just the beginning, that whoever had orchestrated this attack, whoever had just recruited her, had resources and reach far beyond anything she'd faced before, and she'd just agreed to work for them. The first Humvee burst through the perimeter gate, skidded to a stop at the base of the tower. David jumped out before it had fully stopped, started climbing. Catherine stood, wiped her face, composed herself. By the time David reached the platform, she had her mask in place. The grateful wife, the relieved survivor, the woman who just narrowly escaped death, not the soldier who'd just been recruited back into a war she didn't understand. David pulled her into his arms, held her so tight she could barely breathe. God, Cat, I thought, when that timer was counting down, I thought, I'm okay. She held him back. let herself have this moment, let herself pretend everything was fine. I'm okay. What you did, figuring out Chen's back door, stopping the detonation. David pulled back, looked at her with something like awe. You saved everyone. Every single person on this base owes you their life. Catherine thought about the phone call, about the mission waiting in her email, about the choice she just made that she couldn't take back. I just did what needed to be done. No, David cupped her face in his hands. You did what no one else could have done. You were incredible. She wanted to tell him, wanted to confess everything, explain the deal she'd made, ask for his help. But the voice's warning echoed in her mind. Breathe one word and everyone you love burns. So instead, she kissed him. Long and deep and desperate. Kissed him like it might be the last time, because maybe it would be. When they finally broke apart, David rested his forehead against hers. Let's go home. Yeah, Catherine's voice was barely a whisper. Let's go home. But even as they climbed down from the tower, even as the other soldiers cheered and clapped her back, even as the sun rose on a base that had survived against impossible odds, Catherine's phone buzzed in her pocket. One new email, subject line, your first mission. She didn't need to open it, didn't need to read the details, because she already knew the truth. The battle at Forward Operating Base Granite was over, but Catherine Hayes's war had just begun. The medical tent smelled like blood and antiseptic. Catherine sat on an examination table while a medic cleaned the cuts on her wrists, the zip tie marks still raw and angry. David stood 3 feet away, refusing treatment for his own wounds until she was cleared. Mrs. Hayes, you're going to need stitches on this one. The medic probed a deeper cut. And I want to check you for internal injuries. That vest took at least 3 direct hits. I'm fine. Ma'am, with respect, you're not fine. You've been in combat for 6 hours. You were taken hostage and... I said I'm fine. Catherine pulled her wrist away, started rolling down her sleeve. Her phone felt like it was burning a hole in her pocket. David needs attention more than I do. Cat, David started. Captain Hayes, Major Vance pushed through the tent flap, her face grim. We have a situation. David's expression shifted instantly to command mode. What kind of situation? Chen, he's asking to speak with Mrs. Hayes, says it's urgent, says it's about his daughter. Catherine was on her feet before Vance finished speaking. Where is he? Secured in the holding area. But Captain, given what he did, given his role in the attack, I'll talk to him. Catherine was already moving toward the exit. David caught her arm. Not alone. David, not alone. His eyes held hers. Whatever he has to say, I'm hearing it too. They found Chen handcuffed to a chair in a storage room that had been converted into a makeshift holding cell. He looked worse than before. His shoulder was bandaged, but blood had soaked through. His face was gray, his breathing shallow. He looked up when they entered, and something like relief flickered across his face. Mrs. Hayes, did they call? Did they say anything about Lily? Catherine pulled up a chair, sat across from him. Who are they, Chen? I don't know. I swear I don't know. His voice cracked. 3 months ago, I got a package at my house. Photos of Lily at school, at the playground, at her friend's birthday party, and a phone. Instructions to answer when it rang. And when it rang, a voice, distorted, untraceable, said they had taken Lily, said they'd kill her unless I did exactly what they told me. Chen's hands clenched into fists. They wanted me to compromise the base, to create vulnerabilities, to wait for the right moment. The moment my wife arrived. David's voice was ice. Chen flinched. They knew about her, knew her background, knew she was coming. He looked at Catherine. They wanted you here. This whole thing, the attack, the detonator, everything, it was designed to force you back into the field. Catherine felt David's eyes on her, questioning. She kept her face neutral.
Why me?
I don't know. The voice never said. Just kept giving me instructions, kept promising that if I followed them perfectly, Lily would be released. Chen's eyes filled with tears. I didn't want to betray you, Captain. I didn't want any of this. But she's 8 years old, and she's all I have left after her mother. He stopped, breathed. What would you have done? David's jaw worked. I would have come to my commanding officer, would have trusted my team to help. And risk them killing her? Risk them disappearing before we could act? Chen shook his head. No, I couldn't take that chance. So instead you helped them kill 18 of your brothers in arms. David's voice rose. 18 soldiers are dead because you... David. Catherine's hand on his arm stopped him. Chen, the voice called me after I disarmed the detonator, said they were watching, said they'd release Lily if I cooperated. Chen's head snapped up. They called you? What did they say? Did they give you proof she's alive? Catherine pulled out her phone, showed him the photo. Chen's face crumbled. That's her. That's my Lily. His voice broke. Is she... Did they say when? They said within the hour. That was 40 minutes ago. Catherine checked her watch. If they keep their word. They won't. Chen's laugh was bitter. People like that never keep their word. She's probably already... He couldn't finish. No. Catherine's voice cut through his despair. I made a deal. They want something from me, which means they need to prove they can deliver. Your daughter is their leverage. They'll keep her alive. What kind of deal? David's question was sharp. Kat, what kind of deal did you make? Before Catherine could answer, Vance burst in again. Captain, we've got incoming. Helicopter, unmarked, coming in fast from the south. David's hand went to his sidearm. Battle stations, everyone armed and... Sir, they're broadcasting on military frequencies. They're saying they have a priority delivery. Catherine and David exchanged glances. They ran. The helicopter touched down in the center of the base, rotors still spinning. The side door opened, and a man in a dark suit stepped out, carrying a small figure wrapped in a blanket. Chen broke free from the guards holding him, stumbled forward. Lily! Lily! The little girl's head emerged from the blanket. Daddy? Stand down! David's voice cracked like a whip, stopping Chen mid-stride. Nobody moves until we verify. But Chen wasn't listening. He ran, fell to his knees in front of his daughter, pulled her into his arms. Oh God, you're alive, you're... Lily clung to him, crying. Daddy, I was so scared. The bad men said... They said if I didn't stay quiet, they'd hurt you. The man in the suit stepped back, pulled out a tablet. Marcus Chen. As per the agreement, your daughter has been returned unharmed. All debts are considered paid. He looked at Catherine. Mrs. Hayes, your first assignment details are in your email. You have 72 hours to respond. Who are you? David raised his rifle. Who sent you? The man smiled. Just a courier, Captain. Following orders, same as you. He turned back to the helicopter. Oh, and Mrs. Hayes? They said to remind you, the clock is ticking. The helicopter lifted off before anyone could stop it, disappearing into the morning sky. Catherine felt David's eyes boring into her. What assignment? I don't know what he's talking about. Don't lie to me. David grabbed her arm, pulled her away from the others. Not now. Not after everything we've been through. What did you promise them? Catherine looked at Chen, still holding his daughter. Looked at the base, scarred and broken but standing. Look at David, her husband, her anchor, the man she tried so hard to build a normal life with. They want me for one mission. I said I'd consider it. Consider it? David's voice rose. Kat, these people orchestrated an attack that killed 18 soldiers, took a child hostage, and manipulated all of us like puppets. And you're going to consider working for them? They saved Lily. After they kidnapped her in the first place. David's hands clenched into fists. This is exactly what I was afraid of. This is why I wanted you out of the field. why I wanted us to build something normal. Because this life, this world, it doesn't let you go. It just keeps pulling you back until... Until what? Catherine's voice was quiet. Until I'm dead? Until you're dead? David, they were going to blow the base with you in it. What was I supposed to do? You were supposed to trust me to find another way. There wasn't another way. Catherine's control finally cracked. You weren't there. You didn't hear that voice. They had everything planned, everything covered, and they wanted me specifically. If I'd refused, then we'd have found a way to beat them together. David's voice dropped. But you didn't even try. You just made a deal, and now you're thinking about actually going through with it. I made a deal to save your life. And what about after this mission? What about the next one? And the one after that? David stepped closer. These people don't let you do one job and walk away, Kat. Once you're in forever. I know that, Catherine met his eyes, which is why I'm not going to do it. The silence stretched between them. David's expression shifted from anger to confusion. What? I'm not doing the mission. I'm not working for them. I'm not... Catherine took a breath. I'm choosing you, David. I'm choosing us. But they'll come after you, after us. Let them come. Catherine's voice hardened. I've spent the last 6 hours being manipulated, controlled, forced to play their game by their rules. I'm done with that. If they want me, they can try to take me, but I'm not going willingly. David stared at her. They'll kill us both. Maybe. Or maybe we're better than they think we are. Catherine touched his face. I've been a weapon for so long, David, for my entire adult life. And these last 3 months with you, trying to be something else, maybe I wasn't very good at it. Maybe I kept slipping back into old habits. But I want to keep trying. I want to build that normal life, even if it means fighting for it. Kat, I'm not saying I'll stop being who I am. I can't do that. This, she gestured at the base, at the aftermath of the battle. This is part of me, but I can choose who I use it for. And I choose to use it protecting what I love, not destroying what someone else tells me to destroy. David's hands came up, cupped her face. They won't stop coming. Then we'll deal with them. Together. Catherine leaned into his touch. But I'm done making deals with devils. I'm done trading pieces of my soul for mission objectives. What about Chen's daughter? If you refuse, they might... No. Chen's voice came from behind them. He stood there, Lily holding his hand, Vance and Rodriguez flanking them. No, Mrs. Hayes. You've done enough. More than enough. He knelt down to Lily's level. Baby, I need you to go with Major Vance for a few minutes, okay? But Daddy... It's okay, I'll be right there, I promise. Vance led Lily away. Chen stood, faced Catherine and David. I heard what you said, about refusing the mission. He straightened his shoulders. Don't refuse because of me. Chen, I made my choice. I betrayed my country, my brothers, my oath. I did it to save my daughter, and I do it again. But I won't let you sacrifice yourself because of it. Chen's voice was steady now, certain. These people, whoever they are, they'll keep using leverage, keep finding pressure points. The only way to beat them is to make yourself unleverageable. How? By having nothing left to lose. Chen pulled out a knife. Somehow he'd gotten free of his restraints. Catherine's hand went to her sidearm, but Chen just held the blade out, handle first. Captain Hayes, I'm guilty of treason. The penalty is death. I request that you carry out the sentence immediately. David's face went white. Chen, that's not... We don't execute prisoners. I'm not asking for an execution. I'm asking for justice. Chen's eyes were calm. My daughter is safe now. That's all that matters. But as long as I'm alive, they can use me against you. Can threaten to hurt Lily unless I give them information, unless I cooperate. He looked at Catherine. If I'm dead, they lose that leverage, and you lose one more reason to do what they want. I'm not killing you. Catherine kept her hands at her sides. That's not justice. That's just convenient, expedient, necessary. Chen smiled sadly. Mrs. Hayes, you're a soldier. You know sometimes the mission requires sacrifice. Let me sacrifice for something that matters. Your daughter needs her father. My daughter needs to grow up safe, needs to grow up in a world where people like me don't betray everything they believe in because someone threatens them. Chen set the knife down between them. Please, let me do this one good thing. Rodriguez spoke up from where he'd been standing guard. Sir, there might be another option. Witness protection. We move Chen and his daughter somewhere secure, give them new identities, make it impossible for these people to find them. They found her the first time, Chen said. They'll find her again. Not if we do it right, Vance crossed her arms. We've got contacts in intelligence, real agencies, not shadow organizations. If we move fast, if we bury them deep enough, it could work. David's military mind was already working the problem. We'd need to act quickly before whoever these people are realize what we're doing. And we'd need to make it look like Chen died in the attack. Chen shook his head. Captain, with respect, you're grasping at straws. These people have resources, reach, intelligence capabilities that are still bound by the same limitations as everyone else. Catherine's voice cut through the debate. They're not omniscient. They're not gods. They're just very good at what they do. She looked at David. Can you make this happen? If I pull in every favor I'm owed, if I call in debts from everyone I've ever served with, David paused. Maybe. But it'll burn a lot of bridges. And if it fails, then we deal with the consequences. Catherine turned to Chen. But you don't get to die today. You don't get to take the easy way out. You're going to live with what you did. You're going to raise your daughter, and every day, you're going to remember the men who died because of your choices. That's your sentence, Chen. Not death. Life. Chen's face crumbled. I don't know if I can. You can. Because the alternative is leaving Lily alone in this world, and you're not that much of a coward. Catherine's voice softened. We all carry our sins, Marcus. The question is whether we let them destroy us or whether we use them to become better. Which are you going to choose? Before Chen could answer, Catherine's phone rang. Not a regular ringtone, a specific pattern. 3 short bursts, pause, too long, pause, repeat. Military emergency frequency. Catherine answered, This is Hayes. Mrs. Hayes, the cultured voice from before. I'm watching your little conference, very touching, but I'm afraid I have some bad news. How are you? Watching? Satellite feeds, surveillance drones, informants on your base, take your pick. The voice was amused. Did you really think you could refuse our offer without consequences? David snatched the phone. Who is this? Identify yourself. Captain Hayes, the man who runs around playing hero while his wife does the real work. The voice lost its amusement. Put her back on, now. David's jaw clenched, but he handed the phone back to Catherine. I'm here. Good, now listen carefully. You have a choice to make, and you have 60 seconds to make it. The voice paused. In 60 seconds, my associates will activate a secondary device we planted on your base. Nothing as dramatic as the ammunition storage, just a small charge on the medical tent, where I believe you're currently keeping 23 wounded soldiers. Catherine's blood went cold. You're bluffing. Am I? Check your watch. 53 seconds. Catherine ran. David and the others followed, but she was faster, her legs pumping, her mind calculating distances and trajectories. The medical tent was 300 yards away. Even at a full sprint, she'd need 40 seconds to reach it. 45 seconds, Catherine. Will you make it in time? She didn't waste breath answering, ran harder, her chest burning, her wounded body screaming protest. Behind her, David was shouting into his radio, ordering an evacuation. But there wasn't time. Wasn't time to move 23 wounded soldiers. Wasn't time to search for the device. Wasn't time for anything except Catherine burst into the medical tent. Wounded soldiers looked up, confused. A medic turned toward her. "Everyone out! Now! Move! 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 Ma'am, these patients can't be—" "I said move!" Catherine started grabbing soldiers, dragging them toward the exit. Others caught on, started helping, but they were so slow, so terribly slow. 30 seconds. Catherine's eyes scanned the tent, looking for the device. Where would she plant it? Where would give maximum coverage, maximum casualties? There, the central support pole. A small package wrapped in duct tape. 20 seconds. Catherine ran to it, started examining the wiring. Simple detonator, radio trigger, maybe 2 pounds of C4. Enough to bring down the tent and kill everyone inside. 15 seconds. Still think you can beat me, Catherine? Her hands moved on autopilot, tracing wires, identifying the trigger mechanism. She could cut the power wire, but if there was a fail-safe— 10 seconds. Make your choice. Do you save these soldiers, or do you refuse our offer and let them die? Catherine pulled out her knife, found the antenna wire, put the blade against it. 5 seconds. What's it going to be? She cut. Nothing happened. Catherine waited, breath held. 1 second, 2, 3. The package fell apart in her hands. No explosives, no detonator, just wires and tape and a radio transmitter connected to nothing. Gotcha. The voice on the phone was laughing. Did you really think I'd give you a chance to be a hero again? Did you really think there was a bomb? Catherine's legs gave out. She dropped to her knees, the fake device scattered around her. That was your test, Catherine, and you failed. You believed the threat. You ran to save them. You did exactly what I wanted you to do. The voice turned serious. Which proves my point. You're not done being a soldier. You're not done being a weapon, and you never will be. Go to hell. Eventually, but first, I'm going to watch you destroy everything you love trying to protect it. The voice paused. The mission details are in your email. You have 72 hours. If you refuse, I'll find another pressure point, another threat, another way to force your hand. I will never stop, Catherine. Not until you give me what I want. Which is what? Your complete and total obedience, because that's what weapons do. They obey their masters. The line went dead. Catherine knelt there in the empty medical tent, surrounded by fake bomb components and her own shattered composure. She'd run. She'd believed. She'd done exactly what they wanted. David found her there 5 minutes later. He didn't say anything, just sat down beside her and put his arm around her shoulders. They're not going to stop, she whispered. I know. They're going to keep coming, keep threatening, keep manipulating. I know. David, I don't know how to fight this. I don't know how to beat an enemy I can't see, can't find, can't— Then we don't fight them. David pulled her closer. We just live. We build our life, we protect what matters, and we refuse to let them control us. They want you scared? We laugh. They want you isolated? We gather allies. They want you broken? We stand together. It can't be that simple. It's not simple. It's the hardest thing we'll ever do. David tilted her chin up, made her look at him. But we're going to do it anyway. Because the alternative is living in fear, and I refuse to give them that power. Catherine wanted to believe him, wanted to think it could be that easy, but she'd seen what these people could do, seen how far they'd go to get what they wanted. They'll hurt people we love. Then we'll protect them. They'll destroy everything we build. Then we'll build it again. David, Catherine, he pressed his forehead to hers. I love you. I love who you are, all of who you are, the soldier, the sniper, the woman who can't walk away from a fight. And I'm not asking you to change that. I'm just asking you to fight for us instead of for them. Catherine closed her eyes, let his words sink in, let herself feel the truth of them. She'd spent so many years taking orders, following commands, being pointed at targets and told to shoot. What if she stopped? What if she just chose her own targets? Okay, she whispered. Okay. They stood together, walked out of the medical tent together. Outside, the base was still cleaning up, still recovering. But the soldiers who saw them didn't see victims. They saw survivors, fighters, people who'd faced impossible odds and won. Vance approached, her expression carefully neutral. Mrs. Hayes, we've secured the perimeter, no other devices found, and we've arranged transport for Chen and his daughter. They'll be en route within the hour. Good. Catherine straightened her shoulders. Major, I need you to do something for me. Name it. Get me every piece of intelligence we have on shadow organizations, Black Ops recruiting, off-books military contractors, everything in the system. Vance's eyebrows rose. That's going to take some serious clearance. Then get me the clearance. Catherine's voice was iron. These people think I'm going to work for them? They're wrong. But I'm going to find out who they are. And then I'm going to make sure they never threaten anyone I love again. Catherine, David started. No. She turned to face him. You said we fight together. This is me fighting. Not for them. For us. She looked back at Vance. Can you do it? Vance studied her for a long moment. Then she smiled. I'll have the files on your desk by tomorrow morning. The next 72 hours passed in a blur. Catherine helped coordinate the base repairs. She sat with Chen's daughter while Chen gave his official statement. She wrote reports, filed paperwork, and attended casualty briefings. She did everything a normal person would do in the aftermath of a battle, and she never once opened the email. On the morning of the 73rd hour, her phone rang. The cultured voice no longer amused. You missed the deadline. I know. There will be consequences. I'm counting on it. Catherine's voice was calm. Because when you come for me, when you send your people, when you try to force my hand, I'll be ready. I'll be watching, and I'll find you. You think you can beat us? I think you made a mistake. Catherine looked at David, who stood beside her, rifle in hand. You thought I was alone, thought I was weak, thought you could manipulate me because I wanted something normal. She smiled. But normal for me isn't hiding. Normal for me is fighting, and now I know what I'm fighting for. Silence on the line. Then, this isn't over. No, Catherine agreed. It's just beginning. But here's the difference. You wanted a weapon you could control. Instead, you created an enemy you can't stop. So bring your threats, bring your pressure, bring everything you've got. Her voice went cold. I'll be waiting. She hung up, turned to David. Ready? For what? For whatever comes next. Catherine took his hand. For the fight we just chose. David smiled, squeezed her fingers. Always. They walked out together into the morning sun. The base behind them was scarred, but standing. The mountains around them were indifferent and eternal, and ahead of them stretched a future that was terrifying and unknown, and absolutely theirs. Catherine Hayes had come to Forward Operating Base Granite as a wife trying to visit her husband. She'd survived an ambush, disarmed a bomb, and faced threats that would have broken most people. She'd been tested, manipulated, and pushed to every limit she had. And she'd emerged not as someone's weapon, but as her own woman, a warrior who chose her own battles and fought on her own terms, with the man she loved standing beside her every step of the way.